Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and I do love me some RPGs. I love the action in a lot of action RPGs, and I love online games. So let's go ahead and do a list on that. Top 10 online action RPGs. I'm going to be rating these based on a number of factors that really are almost impossible to quantify, but it's just going to be my picks, okay? But I am ranking these really kind of based on how much I like them, how much I enjoy them, and how much I personally play them, but also how much I think you guys will like them. I really genuinely think that as we go up the list, especially, you should be trying these games out. Now, I know they're not for everybody. Actually, each individual game probably fills its own individual niche, but I just want to once again stress, please guys, keep the hype alive and try it. You might have a good time. So let's dig in, guys. Top 10 online action RPGs. Okay guys, so the first game I want to talk about is Diablo 3. Now this is so low on the list. I mean, it's because it's kind of the staple. I really wanted to set a precedent here, but Diablo also can be played and enjoyed single player, you know, solo, running through the seasons, stuff like that. It does have an online presence, obviously, but this is an online action RPG list. And I think Diablo fits the bill enough to be on the list, but I think that pretty much every other game on this list has more online features, and so the weight is so much more on those games. Hopefully you appreciate that, but basically I think Diablo speaks for itself. It's freaking Diablo. But Diablo 3 kind of went into a different direction than the series, and I think higher on the list you'll see a game that went more for like the spiritual roots and then succeeded that. So yeah, anyways, Diablo basically kind of spawned almost all of this list. It's gonna make the list. All right, moving on, let's talk about Marvel Heroes. Now, this one's kind of interesting because it actually has like open areas that people can play through. Still, it's not giant, mega massive content, but Marvel Heroes is a pretty fun game because of the hero aspect. It's a superhero action RPG, and I dare say it might be fun for the whole family, which most action RPG, because of the whole Diablo roots kind of thing, tend not to be. It's like, they tend to be a little bit more, you know, intense or grotesque even. But Marvel Heroes is fun for everybody, I think, especially kids to jump into. And there's a lot of really fun abilities here, which kind of branches out more so than just the usual medieval fantasy magic, which I think a lot of people are going to really appreciate. With, you know, super speed and zippity zapping, laser beams, things like that. Anyways, so Marvel Heroes, is it good to go? Probably. All right, moving through the list, let's talk about Tree of Savior. This was supposed to be the spiritual successor to Ragnarok Online, which was an MMO, but it isn't really. It's more of like a grindy, repetitive, dungeon diving sort of action RPG, but it does some things different. But one thing I really have to applaud it for, and I think is uncontested here, is the art. It's gorgeous. It's really cool. I like how they have like these 2D, like hand-painted like characters, which are just super charming, right? And then imposed on this really kind of gorgeous and cutesy sort of atmospheric 3D world. So anyways, it is an action RPG top-down. You do run through some open zones, but overall it's a little bit smaller. And I think that Tree of Savior had a rough launch with, you know, optimization issues and stuff like that. But also remember, it's coming to mobile, and it's only getting better every day, and some people are coming back to it and enjoying it. So I wanted to kind of rate it a little bit higher on the list than just the bottom here, because it has tried to do something unique with its aesthetic, and unique kind of with people who do enjoy grind would say that Tree of Savior, I mean, it's got a lot of it, but they, you know, you enjoy it, right? So, hey, the grind's there, and action RPG is kind of a genre filled with grind, and I don't know, that's really all I can say. If it's for you, try out Tree of Savior. Next up, we got Neverwinter Dungeons and Dragons, an action RPG set in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, and I think kind of really similar to its pen and paper roots. You can make dungeons, sort of, kind of, in this game. So that's kind of an interesting concept. You can kind of make your own little dungeons to dive, and I don't know how impactful that is to like the full gameplay, but basically it is a dungeon diver. You're gonna jump in with 3 other players. You're gonna have, you know, different classes that are basically from Dungeons and Dragons. You're gonna have your creatures as Dungeons and Dragons. I really like to rate things higher based on originality, but if you are a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, you know, the creatures, the design, the aesthetic, the mechanics, a lot of that is going to be in here. However, a little bit uniquely compared to a lot of other D&D stuff, it's not as slow-paced. It's straight up action RPG. In fact, it's got a lot of action, I would say. Some really cool mechanics, like every dodge and every class is unique and different. Some have dashes, some have runs. So, you know, it's all pretty cool and fun there. Lots of fun stuff to do also in the towns, I would say. You know, lots of fun little mounts, and I don't know, just running around town could be kind of cute too. So yeah, Neverwinter Dungeons and Dragons. You can make your own dungeons and fight dragons by diving dungeons. Yeah, guys, and breaking halfway on our list, we have Dragon Nest and Vindictus. I put these two games together in every list ever because they're sister titles, but they're actually a little bit different, so let's go through that. Basically, yeah, they are dungeon divers, just like Neverwinter Dungeons & Dragons, except Dragon Nest is going to be way more physics-based. You can actually air juggle, and it's going to be focused on, like, giant Kamehameha, you know, like, area-clearing attacks. It's so bombastic, and that's why I absolutely love it. It also has some really good quests if you have the time to read them. I appreciate them, and I overall like the animation. I love how the game plays. It is looking a little bit dated now, but it's going to run on basically any machine, even how crazy it plays. But Vindictus is going to be way more mature looking. As you can tell directly from the gameplay, it's like really gritty, kind of Dark Soulsian, and a lot bloodier. And it focuses more on like really visceral, like fast visceral attacks and combos. The Dragon Nest has some big combos too. But overall, I think really you're going to pick one or the other based kind of more on aesthetics. But in terms of how I'm ranking this list, they're identical. They're online action RPGs that are focused on diving a lot of dungeons with just a party of people, and then you go to the hub towns and hang out and trade and stuff, and yeah. All right, let's go talk about Mu Legend. This is a newer action RPG that has a lot bigger open areas than most, I would say, but overall, you're just kind of running through the open areas to get to the dungeons, and you're going to be doing lots and lots of dungeons. Now, my experience was like there's not that many classes. Overall, it's very repetitious. I mean, a lot of these games are, but it is like the newest, you know, kid on block. And there was some mechanics that I kind of enjoyed. Now, I played on like the hardest difficulties of some early dungeons, and there was something almost there. It was almost tangible. Like I was almost like really hype. And I think this game could be turned into something really great if they keep adding on classes and they keep doing stuff. But this is a new game, so it is ranked so high because it is newer and it has yet to prove itself. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but it is something to look at. It does have a long history with the MMO Mu and whatever, you know, that the whole franchise, I guess. It's kind of hit or miss with a lot of players, but Mu Legend seems to be really targeting the West and trying to get a lot of people into it, and I think it might do that. And with an online game, the more people playing, the more fun you can have, but at the same time, it is still focused highly on just diving dungeons, going to the higher difficulties, and playing with a party and just getting that sweet loot, right? So Mu Legend has got that content for you. One thing I will say, though, is that it seems like it's really easy to get to like the so-called end game very quickly. Instead of just being a slog grind fest, you immediately get to the good grind fest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the big three, let's talk about Path of Exile. Now, I know immediately it's like, whoa, this isn't number one. And honestly, it was number one until some games kind of, I got back into them or they came out. So don't worry, guys, the top two definitely deserve it. But Path of Exile, if you want like a Diablo-like game, Path of Exile is the number one. I think uncontestably, no debate, it's the number one because it's literally the spiritual successor to Diablo 1 and 2. This game has ridiculous class modifications. You do pick a character at the beginning, they have their own backstory, all that good stuff. By the way, the story fully voice acted and freaking good, very poetic, very Shakespearean, I would say, but also Dark Soulsian and a very, I guess, you know, brooding and emo, but I like its emotiveness. Regardless, the class customization, when you actually do pick your character, and like the mixing and matching and the like sort of the combinations of spells that you can use, like you can actually modify a spell to split projectiles, and then you heal on hit, and then you kind of become like this melee tank that shoots fireballs. Or you can alternate and be like a sniping ice sickle thrower thing that summons ice gold. I don't know. There's so many ridiculous things that you can do in this game. You could probably just make up any random archetype and then boom, there it is. So class customization is basically top notch. It's like literally the best. It's kind of complicated and there's a lot of RNG with the progression in the game, but if you like looting, holy crap, Path of Exile's got a lot of loot, and that literally determines what you do with your class, because you slot the stuff into your gear or your loot. So a lot of fun to be had with Path of Exile if you're just in it for the linear story, or if you're in it for the repetitious ranked season rewards grinding, and also definitely fun to play with friends. And there's even some PvP, and of course there's multiple hub towns to kind of chat and socialize. It's basically got it all. A Diablo-like game that's more online, more interactive, and more brooding and emo. Yeah, Path of Exile. All right, guys, number 2 is Destiny 2. Already, let's go ahead and debate why it's on the list. 1, its action is shooting, and technically it's part of the new emergent genre looter shooter, just like number 1 is, However, I wanted to put it on the list because as an RPG, it's got all the RPG mechanics that you kind of want. It's got a little bit of class customization, of course. It's got that loot grind, and it's got all the crazy randomness of that. You guys love the gamble, absolutely. But it does have that story, kind of, sort of, and it is an expansive story. The downsides, though, is that you have to buy for that expansion. Like, literally, Destiny 2, you got to buy the new Destiny 2. It's going to be annual. You got to buy the expansions, and oh my, it gets really costly, very costly, especially if you're on PS4 and you got to buy the online as well. Game. However, even though it is a looter shooter, or you might want to say it's an MMO FPS, it's not massive, and just because it is an FPS doesn't mean it's not actiony. It's just, its action is an FPS. There's other games in here that are third person or top down, and their action plays a little bit differently. That doesn't change it from being an online action RPG, in my opinion. So that's my justification. It's a really highly polished product, really big production value, but at the same time, you're paying a whole lot for that production value every single time they update, which is kind of why it's not #1, where pretty much everything else on this list gives you way more content for free consistently. But hey, let's go ahead and talk about #1. Yeah, kind of like the king of free content updates, it's Warframe. Now, Path of Exile and a number of these other games also give you free updates, but Warframe, more than any other game, has just consistently thrown toys at our faces. Like, they just constantly give us new weapons, new gear, new Warframes, you know, new dungeons, new, like, tile sets, because there's always new dungeons, always new randomly generated content, always new events. And even with the Plains of Eidolon, like, this really feels like a kind of like a big expansion. Well, not a big expansion. It's a expansion, maybe. But for free. I mean, as a free player, you can immediately jump in, and Warframe just always delivers the loot. Again, a big component of why you want to play an online action RPG is to go and loot it up with your friends, dive those dungeons, and get the riches. Warframe consistently will deliver that. Probably more than any other game on this list. So I've been playing Warframe. We're actually doing a full review of it now. And spoiler alert, in terms of its genre, if that's specifically looter shooter, or if we go and broaden it out to online action RPG, it is my #1. Even with all my complaints, which it is a very big grindy game, probably superfluously grindy, but at the same time, again, why do you play online action RPG? For the social online elements, which Warframe has amazing clan systems, which you actually need to do to progress through the game. It's got pretty interesting PvP, though not perfect peer-to-peer, just like Destiny 2. Actually, almost none of these games have perfect, you know, PvP, but still. In the end, it's got everything that pretty much all these other games have, even really good story quests, which I played single player, really cinematic stuff there in the late game. But this game is shaping up to be awesome. And one really awesome thing that I really want to finish this video off with is that Warframe, it's consistently shaping up. A lot of these games slow down production. A lot of these games are kind of just, they exist now, and they won't be getting much more updates. But Warframe, forever, always has been, always will be, consistently shaping up to be something. So get hype, keep it alive, try out Warframe. Well, friends, that is the end. Now, this is my personal pick, and there's tons of games out there that do exist. I just think that these are going to be like the most known, the most well-polished, the ones that have the most content, the newest, the greatest. I think these are the ones that you guys are really looking for if you're like, clicking on this video. Now, there are tons, like C9, Continent of the Ninth. There's also like Drakensang, which has been around forever. It's been like the free-to-play Diablo for the longest time. And then you might even debate about, whoa, Sky, where's Dark Souls? But come on, guys, Dark Souls is like its own unique thing, right? Like, it's not persistently online. It's like that's a special, that Dark Souls is Dark Souls, right? Bloodborne's Bloodborne. So, I have my excuses for not including those games, but if you want to shout those out and say why you love them or not, or, say, hey, guys, don't play those games, leave it in the comments below. We would love to know. Top 10's our community effort. Anyways, the channel's called Skylent Games. That's just because I'm fucking awesome. So, anyways, this is my opinion. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know yours down below. Anyways, regardless of whatever game you pick to play, I hope you're having fun, and I'll see you in the next one.